This is Starcast, the official podcast of your Billingham Stars. Watch and listen for the very latest news and interviews from within the Big Red Machine.
A very warm welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us here on Starcast, the official podcast of your Billingham Town Council-sponsored Billingham Stars, episode number 22. We've had our Cup weekend, which we'll talk about here on the podcast. Cup semi-finals. There's a couple of league games in our division as well, but Cup semi-finals North and South. We've got a guest in our middle segment. We're joined by Ben from Zeropucksgiven to talk about all things NIHL South. And our crossover playoffs excitement coming up as well. And we'll look at the results of last weekend and look at the game coming up this forthcoming weekend as the Stars return to league action. Carol and Jono are alongside me, as you can see. Carol, yay! I can point them out there now. It's only taken 22 episodes. Carol and Jono are alongside. You're very warm welcome. Carol, Jono, how's things with you this Tuesday night?
Yeah, not bad. Heavy weekend, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
Long weekend.
One of us is a year older than we were at the start of the weekend, Jono. How's the celebrations?
Slightly wiser this year. Slightly wiser.
We shall see. Remains to be seen. But great to have you on board. We'll talk about plenty of action for the Billingham Stars. I say Cup weekends, North and South. We'll do some results. We'll get into that later. But for now, your Billingham Stars, for the second year in a row, faced the Hull Jets in the Cup semi-final. Home leg on Saturday, the road leg on Sunday. Saturday at the Forum, after a scrappy first and kind of penalty-strewn middle period, a 5-2 win for the Billingham Stars on Saturday, and an 8-1, much more business-like on Sunday at the Hull Arena. Saturday started off, Ian Brown opened the scoring because, of course, he did. 48th goal of the season. And then Hull hit back. Ethan Daintith sprung from the penalty box and finished past Mark Turnbull in net for 1-1. And then their new signing, David Drinanox, who left Blackburn before Christmas. He was signed by the Hull Jets and he scored on the power play before the end of the first period. Hull led 2-1. Only goal of the middle period was a very well taken goal by Chris Sykes after the Stars had to kill off a few penalties, including a long 5-on-3, a huge kill from the Stars. Sykes' goal just kind of topped that cherry on the cake for the PK. And then the third period, 3 goals. Callum Wilkinson on the power play, Chris Sykes with his second, Ian Brown with his second, putting the gloss on a 5-2 win. On the Sunday night, big travelling support down at the Hull Arena, fueled by their chip spice, I'm sure. Again, Hull taking the lead. Josh Yardley opening and scoring in the 5th minute. But then your Billingham Stars hit back. Roland's Gritans equalising. Lucas Dowdle putting the Stars ahead by the end of the first. And then the procession. Michael Elder, a power play goal and a delayed penalty goal. Conor McNulty, Sean Galloway, James Helens and Conor McNulty again. A 8-1 final score. 2 power play goals, a short-handed goal and a delayed penalty short-handed goal. Plenty of special teams for your Billingham Stars. 8-1 and a 13-3 final. So we'll start on Saturday at the Forum. Carol, we said we kind of half expected the Drinanox announcement, and lo and behold, he was announced just as they were coming on for warm-up. And he kind of had a stabilising factor for the Hull defence.
Yes, he did. Also, Hull were able to welcome back a couple more bodies as well, over and above what they had at the Forum the previous week. So you had Jacob Brammer in there, Kieran Beach. All in all, they just looked a different proposition. And I guess that's how it was for the first 2 periods. Although, to be fair, the Stars looked desperately out of sorts for 40 minutes. So it's quite a strange 6 periods if you look at them as a collective 6. But I think all of the hard work that laid the groundwork for the mauling that the Jets took on Sunday all came in that Saturday game. You mentioned that 5-on-3 penalty kill. That was massive. bearing in mind where the scoreline was when that happened. And then you've got the goal right at the end from Ian Brown. And by the way, that was a gorgeous goal. And I think that probably was enough to break the whole spirit, if that makes sense, because they pretty much missed their chance. And I think they probably knew it as well, because that scoreline could have been so different. And as it was, we just edged that 3-goal cushion going into Sunday. And I think Hull would probably come away from the Forum quite dejected, actually.
Yeah. And a big difference, it doesn't sound a lot, Jono, but a big difference between a 2-goal and a 3-goal margin is that late goal made it, and it made it a much tougher proposition for Hull on the Sunday night. And although they did get that early goal, the Stars kind of picked up where they left off in period 3 on Saturday and did the job thoroughly on Sunday.
Yeah, that final Ian Brown goal was huge. And as Carol said, what a goal. The pass from Sykes was just outrageous. He must have enjoyed that as much as scoring a goal. But yeah, I think the Hull Jets did take a time out at some quite early in the third period. I think it was when it went about 4-2, maybe. They took it just after that. And I think that was probably more of a timeout to say, let's just sit back. Let's not get silly. Let's not go forward, get carried away and get caught out. And we'll be happy to take 2 goals back into Hull on the Sunday night on home ice and see what we can do from there. And as Carol said, I think that 5th goal was just an absolute killer for them. Going into Sunday, they started the first 5-6 minutes very much as you would have expected them to do, to try and jump on us, get that early goal, which they did. And then another beautiful goal scored by Moralee Cup, a nice backhand finish, and you just saw the energy zap out of them. And we just took over from there. We controlled every part of the game, the offensive zone, the defensive zone, the transition. We were fantastic from going 1-1 really on the Sunday night.
Yeah, and possibly more so on the Sunday than the Saturday, but the 3-line mantra that we keep talking about came more to the fore on Sunday. They said Rowley scored, Lucas scored, Mikey scored 2, Connor scored 2, Shuggy Jam from the back. So the goals spread around, and that again shows how possibly it didn't quite click on Saturday for whatever reasons until the third period, and then Sunday it was kind of all guns blazing, and the goals came from right across the board, Carol.
Yeah, and we're saying that all the time, aren't we? But people still talk about our first line as being this machine, and it is, but that's not the whole Stars story, and it does make it particularly difficult for teams to think about how they start with their own lineups. Foz made a couple of interesting little changes between the Saturday and the Sunday game. Actually, I think he probably made some of them in mid-game on Saturday, just to throw the whole bench off a little bit more. So, for instance, starting with the so-called second line on Saturday as first, and then changing it back to the first line, starting as first on Sunday. Just those little changes, just to throw the coaches off a little bit more on the whole bench. Don't think it was necessary in the end, because as we keep saying, and just not sure it's sinking in yet, we don't really have a first line. We have 3 very, very, very good lines that can roll against anyone in the league.
Yeah, no, and so that proved across the weekend. We mentioned them kind of briefly last week, but we've got to mention them in huge part this weekend. Mark Turnbull took both games, Jono, and particularly on the Saturday, that middle period, a lot of penalty killing, the 5-on-3. He finished with 43 saves on Saturday, and I think it's fair to say without Mark performing as he did on Saturday, we couldn't have had that third period come back.
No, absolutely not. And the guy is probably playing the best hockey. He's probably exceeded his own expectations at how well he's playing. And there's a huge saying, obviously, in the NHL and on the podcast that you watch over the other side of the pond is ride them while they're hot. And that's exactly what Billingham and Fozzie are doing with Mark right now. He's flying, he's confident, he's happy with the guys in front of him. And more importantly, the guys in front of him are very happy with him. And like you say, it's bringing the best out in him. And watching him play when we played against him when he was a Warrior, he was never this good. And like I say, I just think he's just so happy with his game, and he's happy with the people in front of him. He's seeing the puck like a beach ball right now, and long may it continue. And the one thing that's going to come out of this is Jacob's going to have to get better to take the net back. He's going to have to play better. So we're going to have two fantastic netminders in great form heading into very much the very business end of the season. But most of all, Mark deserves this. He's been on a lot of bus journeys, carrying his bag and wondering if he's going to get a shift here and there and what games he might play in. But right now he's playing. He's got the net and he's hot, and long may it continue.
All right. Yeah, 43 saves on Saturday, 33 saves from 34 shots on Sunday. So a huge part of the defence, and I say it's the defence has kind of grown up. Got Richie on board, which we mentioned again at this season. So the defence is, for all we're scoring goals at times for fun, it's still boring hat on. You still got to take care of your own end, Carol, and the defence and Mark and Jacob, whoever's in the net, are doing that in big style.
Yeah, and there's no better example of teamwork really when you look at our defence, because the D are all playing so tightly, and those D pairings do tend to change quite a lot, but everybody seems comfortable playing with whoever it might be at the back end. The two goalies, and actually no, I'm going to say three because we need to give Jack a mention. He has played his part this season, but if we just look at Mark and Jacob for a second, this is actually, I'm sure Jacob's feeling quite frustrated at the minute, but it should be in a positive way, because as Jono's just said, this is the spurt for him to, if he wants that net back, he's going to have to take it back. And there's no real better position for a team to be in when a coach is having to make a difficult choice between two exceptionally good netminders. You wouldn't take it off Mark at the minute, because Mark is playing so well. And that just pushes Jacob on to be better, and that's all brilliant for the team. But the D in front of him is playing out of its skin. I mean, we can wax lyrical about Tommy Spagan all day, but again, that's not a one-man show. We've got a very, very solid D core this season, and they are all playing a significant part, and there's been improvement across the board. You could name individuals at the back end who have completely stepped up their game this year, and it's amazing to see. And because if you look at the average age of our D, that's a D that's going to stay together for a long time, with a possible one exception. But that's a long-term D core, and we should be very thankful that we have it.
Definitely.
I think Darren Stattersfield is the oldest D man we have.
Yeah.
And he's what, 24, 25?
Yeah.
That's a very, very young. That's a very, very young D to be dominating games the way it does. You don't become a great D man until you're 28, 29. But they've got a great guy in Richie on training, on games, showing them the way. And I'd like to say, long may it continue.
Yeah, no, it was fantastic. And I say the thing with the goalies, it only bodes well for the running. If you've got two goalies challenging each other to be the best, then it bodes well. And it's same for all the way down the line, because we've got guys who are coming in and out of the lineup as well, coming up from the book. So there is that competition for places, and if that can continue right till the end of the season, they're all challenge each other to be as good as they can, then that only bodes well for the run in. Just looking at the stats, anything else from the two games? I'm going to mention the supporters in a minute, kind of off the ice things, but anything else in terms of the two games catches your eye from the two games this weekend?
We can get better.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. We've just beaten a team by 10 goals over 2 legs, and that was nowhere near our best. Yeah.
And obviously the other semi-final, which we'll mention in a moment, Blackburn did as we thought, and they did the job over the D-side Dragons. So it is a rematch of last year's. Apparently, we played Blackburn in the cup final last year. No memory, but apparently it happened, and they won. So a rematch. We'll get the dates and things as soon as they are confirmed. I think it's the 22nd, 23rd.
That's correct, yeah.
Or the penciled in official dates. So we'll see. I was having a look sadly before the weekend. Both teams won all 8 of their cup games, so I don't know who the top seed is. So we shall leave that to the NIHL management if they're listening.
Who's top of the league?
Well, that's it. I don't know. We'll have to have a look at the rules of competition to see how the seedings work. If it's cup ties or if it's league or if it's whatever. But we'll see. But we'll get the clubs will sort it out, and we'll get the venues and dates and everything confirmed ASAP. I know I don't want to jump the gun to supporters club business, but I'm sure you're already looking at transport options for fans wanting to go to any away leg of a cup final, Jono, from the supporters club. So the sooner we can get that sorted, the better we can start planning.
Absolutely.
So we'll bring that news as soon as we can. But yeah, got to mention the fans across the weekend as well. A Saturday home game, not on a season ticket. So all paying. Great crowd for a Saturday, and then the huge travelling continued going down the road to the Chip Spice Arena as well. I didn't make it down to Hull on Sunday, but what was the atmosphere down on Sunday like, Jono?
Yeah, it was fantastic, and just having a chat with one or two of the other regular away fans, and it's just great to see how many new people are turning up. Even now, we sit in the crowd and we're asking each other, "Who's that? Who's that? Who's this?"
Yeah,
where have they come from? And normally you would know all 5 or 6 to 10 of yous. Now there's 60, 70 of us turning up nearly every away game now, and there's new faces every week. And I'm sure the lads appreciate it. As a supporters club, we absolutely appreciate seeing the new faces and getting to know the new people. And yeah, it's just fantastic to see. And it's the relationship between the club and the fans is ever growing. And like I say, yeah, it's just fantastic to see. And long may that continue as well.
Yeah, and the home leg, as I said, Carol, for everybody, I say everybody having to pay on the door, not a season ticket game. The first 3 blocks I think were full, and obviously you had a few Hull fans coming up as well, which is good to see what the fans are supporting what's going on. And even now I had to do an announcement for a couple of newbies. Even on a cup semi-final, people are still coming to their first Billingham Stars game. They're still finding out about hockey and Stars hockey, and it's great to see that the crowd is still growing and still getting bigger.
Yeah, I get messages pretty much on a daily basis from people wanting to know more about when the next fixture is, where do they sit, when should they start queuing, and it's all new people. And I think I mentioned to one of the private chat groups during the week, I think a lot of that's down to people making the name of the Stars more known about the town, because you'd be amazed how many people live in Billingham and haven't got Scoobies about the team, or, and this is more frustrating, you'll talk to them about ice hockey at the forum and they'll go, "Oh, the Bombers," and you think, okay, that's been gone for some time now. So it's even for a small town like Billingham, and we have a small town, unfortunately, it has been quite hard to get the word out. But I'm seeing a lot of people around our town wearing the gear, and you'd be amazed how much of a positive effect that has. So I keep saying to people, wear your merch, wear your bobble hats, wear your sockies, wear your jerseys, wear your hoodies. Because it really does get the word out, and people are hearing about us, because we've been quite successful recently, and success does breed fans coming in because they want to see a team that's winning. We do compete with some very good other local sport teams in Billingham, so the rugby team in particular is very good. We've got a couple of non-league football teams who fortunes tend to waver a little, but we are competing for people's money, people's time. But I think I'm right in saying at the minute the Stars are the best attended sports team in Billingham. I don't believe any of the football teams or the rugby team get as many as we do. So it's obvious that we are being increasingly successful in the town. And I put a lot of that down just to people spreading the word, and long may that continue. Keep doing it, kids.
Yep, I actually challenge all you fans to bring one person who's never heard of ice hockey before.
Yeah, definitely. And there's plenty of games coming up. Still 5 home games left, plus any knockout games, any playoff games. So there's still plenty of opportunity to get to the forum before the season is out. Follow us online and find out when the next action is going to be. But no, that was great. I say that the Cup semi-finals, North and South. I know we're going to talk about that when we get our guest on board very shortly, talking about the South action down in the NIHL. But for now, we'll draw a veil on proceedings there. We'll take a break and we'll come back with our interview guest. It's Ben from zeropucksgiven. That's next here on Starcast. I hope you can join us for that. It's your Billingham Town Council sponsored Billingham Stars. Welcome back to the latest edition of Starcast, our second segment. I'm delighted to have a guest on board, first time in 2025, first guest for a few weeks, actually. And it's somebody who's a fellow member of the podcast universe. He's been doing it a little bit longer than we have, and covers the NIHL in the South. Is also starting a new venture this coming weekend as well for followers of the NIHL. It's all going to be very exciting. We're going to talk North v South and whole things besides. I'm delighted to welcome on board Ben from zeropucksgiven. There's Ben there. Ben, thanks for joining us here on Starcast.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to join other podcasts. It's something that I've always said, podcasting in hockey is not a competition. We're all here for the same reason, so we should all be jumping on each other's and spreading the good word. Spreading the word, indeed. Well, it's a pleasure is all ours to have you, and I say we'll talk things North and South in a moment. Just a little bit about ZPG. You're closing in on 150 episodes. I was just listening to the latest one just this afternoon, the Cup roundup, which we'll talk about in a moment. But how did the idea of ZPG come about, and how did you get started? Well, originally it only really came about because I went on Popmaster on Radio 2, which it shows how long ago it was now, because I don't think Ken Bruce is even on Radio 2 anymore. And someone said to me, "Oh, you come across really well. Have you ever thought of doing a podcast?" And I thought, well, I have, but I've thought about doing a boxing podcast because I like my boxing. But there's so many out there, I thought it would just be white noise. And sort of just before COVID, me and my daughter started going to see Chelmsford Chieftains, started going regularly. And then when it came back after COVID, we're going every week, and I'm struggling to find any details anywhere of anything else that's going on in the league, who's playing who, what the results were, how the team we're playing at this weekend did the week before. So I thought, you know what, I'm just gonna start a podcast and talk about hockey. And originally I just started talking about Chelmsford Chieftains. I only really covered their games. I interviewed virtually the whole roster, minus Petr Cech, unfortunately, from that year. And then it just kind of snowballed, I think, because the first year that I did it, I got set up on, to go a bit nerdy, I got set up on Anchor, which I think is now called Spotify for podcasters. And I couldn't believe how easy it was. It was all on my phone, everything recorded through there. I'm not massively technological. I'm a little bit of a technophobe, but I managed to sort of muddle my way through it to now, as you say, nearly 150 episodes, 2.5 years, and now all doing videos and other sort of online platforms. As you said, I've got a new venture coming up in a couple of weeks as well. So it's it did kind of snowball after all of that. Yeah, and for those who haven't listened to ZPG, obviously your focus is South One, yes. Obviously the wider South as well. But and one of the good features in your roundup episodes is you get the coaches to give you their thoughts as well. So how did that come about? Was it just getting yourself known and kind of getting them on board? It was, yeah. Originally, when I first started, and it was just about Chelmsford. Mark Saunders was the coach at Chelmsford, who's now at Oxford City Stars, and we'd spoken because he loved the idea of the podcast. He said that other coaches had said to him that they were jealous that they had their own one. So he was the original coach of Coach's Thoughts, and he just sends me WhatsApp audio messages. And it was after the first season, England Ice Hockey were kind enough to have me as a member of the media for the playoff finals. And unfortunately, that year Chelmsford didn't make it, so I was kind of forced to cover everybody else. And from that point, I spoke with Carl Lennon from Invicta, I spoke with Alex Murray from Solent, Ben Painter from Streatham, and Jason Butman from Romford. So I kind of got myself known amongst those guys. So when I started covering the whole league, I just messaged them all and said, look, would you mind providing coaches' thoughts from the weekend? And luckily enough, so I've been doing that for a couple of years now, and I have 9 out of the 10 teams in the league that provide them, which it's the only podcast in any sport actually in this country that gets coaches' thoughts from right across the division that we cover. So yeah, it's a good thing.
Yeah, no, it sounds good. Sometimes you get the, for better for worse, you get the raw emotion off the coaches as well, don't you? Because they kind of seem to do it on on a Monday morning, so it's still quite raw in there after their games.
Yeah, okay. Cliff from Chelmsford, he generally does it either on the way to work on Monday or sometimes on the way home from the game on Sunday, depending on where we've played, because he's normally got a couple of hour drive to get home. And yeah, you can normally tell that it's fresh in their mind. Occasionally, I do get requests of, can I re-record that and send you another one in later?
Yeah. No, it sounds good. What about the South in general, Carol? I know you were asking about the South, and how things are shaping up.
Yeah, it's basically, I'm going to be absolutely honest, other than tuning into your podcast occasionally, I've not really kept a big eye on the South yet. But obviously with the Cup semi-finals this weekend, I started delving a little deeper, and I'm just curious to know from your perspective how South One's shaping up this year. Is there any surprise packages in there, or is it pretty much as you expected?
It's pretty much as I expected, to be honest, Carol. We did a sort of a preview episode at the start of the season, and I said, with 10 teams in the league now, I can see it splitting into 3 tiers, and it's exactly what's happened. The top 4 are 15 points clear of 5, 6, and 7, and 7 is 15 points clear of 8, 9, 10. So there is big gaps appearing in the 3 separate tiers, and the teams are pretty much as I expected. I thought that the top 4 would be Streatham, Slough, Chelmsford, and Solent. I think that's the order they're currently in. I don't think that's the order it will finish in, but I thought it would definitely be those 4. Romford are having a great season. I always knew they were going to be dangerous. They last season they had a lot of good young players, of course, the likes of Joe Tamarlin and Brindley Caps, who are of course now playing in the Elite League regularly as they can. So they've always had good players down there, and they're so young and they work so fast and so hard that they upset everybody. To be honest, they always nick a result from left, right, or centre. But yeah, so far, Streatham and Slough are close enough to still be involved in the title chase, especially after with the weekend that just happened. I think that might set a little fire under the top 3, and it's just showing just how competitive it is actually at the top of that division.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned that the weekend just gone. Obviously, it was Cup semi-final, North and South. Jono, do you want to take this bit?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, you just mentioned the top 4 and the top 4 that they've kind of like broken away. It was them 4 in semi-final action this weekend. Was this going to be the usual suspects who were going to make the final, as in like the top 2 or the 2 better teams, or was this 4 teams who all think, yep, we're going to make this final?
Yeah, I think it was the latter, to be perfectly honest. I mean, just before the weekend took place, I actually interviewed Callum Perella-Fox, who's the Solent Devils captain. And I did say to him, I actually fancied them for the weekend. A lot of people were just back in Slough, because Slough had actually beat Solent 4 times already in the league. They'd managed to get all 4 of their league games out of the way by December, to be honest. It was done. And Slough had won all 4. And I said to him, Solent are that team that every year they always beat one of the big dogs at least once. And they hadn't beaten Slough yet. So I said to Callum, and I think I was on an Instagram live as well, where I said, you know what? I really do fancy Solent to beat Slough, which some would consider a shock, but it is what happened. And over the 2 legs, Solent got the better of them. The Chelmsford Streatham one, I could not call. It was just too close. They were 1 game each over the league games so far, and really didn't expect what actually happened over the weekend. I thought it would be the scoreline looked tight, but I thought it would mean 2 tight games rather than 2 games that swung either way.
Well, I mean, obviously you've got the foot in the Chelmsford camp then. So Saturday night at Chelmsford, Streatham did what they've done for the last 3-4 years and take control and kind of dominate, take a 5-goal lead back to the high road. And I think the vast majority, possibly in the Chelmsford camp as well, thought that was kind of done and dusted. But those pesky chieftains had different ideas, Ben.
They did, yeah. In all honesty, I was one of the people that thought that it was done. Streatham have been so good defensively over the last couple of years, really, which, of course, the Billingham guys found out at Coventry last year. They're very hard to break down, particularly on their own ice. But from what Ben Painter had said in his coach's thoughts in the last episode, that some were complacent. They had that attitude as well, that it was done. And all they had to do was turn up, skate around, and they'd be in the final. And it was actually 0-0 right up until the 30th minute. So Chieftains managed to get those 5 goals in the final 30 minutes. And Cliff said on BBC Essex, he was on BBC Essex Radio on Monday night, that after the second goal went in, he thought, you know what, we might be able to do this. And they just never gave up. They went there short benched as well. They were missing 3 or 4 from the night before that had picked up little injuries, as well as all the juniors padding the roster as well. The juniors were playing for the Warriors on the Sunday evening, so they couldn't make the trip. So they went down there with barely 3 lines, which, as you'll know, sometimes when you've got a shorter amount of players, it actually focuses you a little bit more because you've got to double shift, you've got to push hard, you've got to reset, and then you've got to get out there again. And yeah, they left it right until the very last, where they pulled the goalie and managed to get the equalising goal on 59-14, I think it was, off the top of my head, before nicking the overtime winner about a minute and 20 in.
Yeah. I've seen a couple of the videos on socials from celebrations from the travelling Chelmsford fans, and fair play travelling in big numbers into London on a Sunday night to say 5 goals down, but still having that belief and still following their team. And that's what fans do, and they were rewarded with it.
They were indeed. In all honesty, most people that listen to ZPG will know I'm not biased. I don't really subscribe to tribalism. Yes, I'm a fan of Chelmsford, but I always look at everything from a central point of view. No other team in the Britain Division travels like Chelmsford do. And every time Chelmsford don't make the playoffs is the poorer for it, because they bring enormous numbers that are incredibly loud, incredibly passionate. And as you say, the videos, especially from that overtime winning goal, and when the camera pans around, and you can see there was possibly even up to 100 people had travelled into southwest London on a Sunday night with the team 5-0 down, and they certainly got their just rewards for it. Yeah,
no, fantastic. And that's the sort of support we're hopeful to see at the end of the season. You mentioned the crossover championship, which has gone out of our minds for some reason from last season. I can't possibly think why. But the crossover league championships from North and South, and this year, I know you've been a big fan since it was announced. Carol, do you want to talk about our playoffs this year?
Yeah, well, obviously, I'm hoping if the rest of our podcast listeners are anything like I am, start getting a little bit more interested in what's going on down south, because I'm really looking forward to this weekend in April. I think it's going to be a fantastic spectacle of hockey. But obviously, we Northern Monkeys really don't know too much about what's going on down south, and I wondered if there are any names that we might see in Sheffield that you think, or have you got a couple of teams in mind that might make it from South 1 or South 2? Who should we be looking out for?
Well, in South 2, you're pretty hard to look past the Guildford Phoenix and the Peterborough Phantoms. They've both had incredible seasons. And looking at the season the Sutton Sting are having up north in the 2, that's quite mouthwatering. As you said, I've been a massive fan of this idea, this Steel City showdown. I have to say that carefully with your teeth in. But I think I actually said with Jono when I joined Jono on Sticks of the Pod that the North thinks that hockey belongs to them, and the South thinks that hockey belongs to them. This is the only way we're really going to find out. The sort of the league national game that takes place at Coventry, it's normally 2 or 3 weeks after the season has ended. Some players have gone on holiday. You might not always get the top rosters against the top rosters. I don't think it's a great schematic to sort of show who is the best in the country at that level. I think that this will be that. And as I said, I was on an Instagram live last week, and I've said to anybody that asks, who said, "Oh, I don't know whether to book tickets because I don't know if we're going to make it," and I said, this is the problem with fans of this level. Anyone who's been to the Coventry weekend, which I'm sure you guys did last year to follow Billingham up there to face Streatham in the National 1 final, every fan of every club wants to go to the playoff finals in the National League. They want that weekend in Coventry. They want to meet other hockey fans and have a drink, have something to eat, and then watch what is the best hockey at their level, which is the playoff finals. And that's been the problem for our level for the last couple of years, particularly down south. Again, I'm not entirely sure what was happening up north before we sort of all joined up to do this together. That, you know, the south would be at Milton Keynes, which holds best part of 2,500 people. And there'd be 200 people in there. And that's just not a good look for the game. And it's not good for the players to put all the work in they do over the season, you know, the late night training sessions, the double game weekends, as well as doing their full-time job and having their families and whatnot, to then turn up at the showpiece event to 200 people. It's not good enough. And the fans can moan about England Ice Hockey or Ice Hockey UK, whoever might be running their sort of version of the game. But they're putting this event on, and these event teams work incredibly hard when they're there. I know from being involved in the playoff finals at Ali Pali last year, those people behind the scenes work incredibly hard to make sure that it is an absolutely fantastic weekend. The players do their best to make sure it's an absolutely fantastic weekend. The least we can do as fans is pack the arena. Yes, it's a cost for a lot of people coming to Sheffield, especially from the south. You're talking hotels, you're talking long travel. It's one weekend out of the year. Pack that arena and make this there. Steel City Showdown. Too many S's and H's in there. An absolute barnstorming event.
Yeah. And I think the ticket response has been suitably positive as well. Jono, I know you've been a big fan of the crossover playoffs, and you're evangelising the same as Ben is for what's going to happen in April.
Yeah, me and Ben did have a good chat about this on Stick to the Pod, and it's a great setup. I love all playoff weekends. Many who will know me will know from the one gone this year. Yeah, my team got beat in the final, but I think I spent most of the time speaking to other hockey fans. It's great to sit with other people from up and down the country, rival teams in your own league, and get to know each other and realise that we're all there for the same thing, and that's for this wonderful sport. And I just hope, I've spoken to a lot of people up north who said, yep, they're going no matter what. And I just hope South are going to take up that mantle as well and get the travel. Because I know if the roles are reversed next season, we'll certainly be travelling down.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the sort of reports from the events team is it's over half sold already in Ice Sheffield. So that's fantastic. And so you get those tickets from Ticket Cove, the AIH. Socials have the links on. You mentioned at the top, Ben, the kind of the expanding of the ZPG network. That you've got a new venture starting in a couple of weeks' time. It's something you've thought about for a while, and you're putting it into play not next weekend, the weekend after.
Yeah, February the 1st it's going to come out. It was going to be this weekend, but I'm taking a little bit more time with the tech to make sure that it all works exactly as it should.
So do you want to tell us about your Hockey Live?
Yeah, it was an idea I actually discussed with Nick Rothwell, who was a guest on my podcast last season. Nick and I have become close since then. We met up in London and we had a chat about things that we can do to just raise awareness of the game in this country. We obviously had the wonderful news today that it's sort of, I think it's ranking 5th as the most attended sports, let alone indoor sports, which it's top of that list. It's ranking 5th as the sort of most attended sport in the UK. And we sort of discussed ways that we can try and grow it online, because obviously it hasn't got a TV deal at any level at the moment. So for the lower levels, particularly, online is what we've got. And the tools are all there. So I kind of looked at what we could do. And originally it was an idea that I thought, you know what, I don't think there's any way I'm going to be able to do that on my own. But I've had a few practices. I've got some tech that's going to sort of help me do it. Eventually, I'd like to bring people on board, but what we're looking to do, as you said, Hockey Night Live, it's going under. It's going to be a live YouTube show that's going to be a little bit like Soccer Saturday, but for hockey. So I'm going to be having a few computer screens in front of me and a few phones and tablets, keeping up to date on Twitter, Facebook, the NIHL Match Night Live page, as well as watching a live stream at the same time. And I'm going to try and bring you all the goals as they happen, all the penalties as they happen. I've worked out a few little graphics and a few little things to use in the live broadcast. I'm just hoping that my computer and my internet can handle it.
Yeah. No, I'm excited to see that. And is that there'll be a YouTube on your ZPG YouTube, or a separate YouTube channel for it?
Yeah, it's going to be on the Zero Pucks Given YouTube channel, which I think it will be renamed ZPG TV if it does go ahead, because we're actually looking to start doing live streaming as well. We probably start small, possibly with the South 2, or maybe even the women's game. You'll know I sort of have a colleague at ZPG, and Adam Mackman from Ice Maidens, who does ZPG Ice Maidens, which is all about the WNIHL. It's the only dedicated UK podcast to women's ice hockey. He does an awful lot for the Whitley Bay Beacons up there, does a lot of streaming. So we're hoping to do a little bit in the South as well. We know that some of the clubs are already doing it, and they're putting it out there for free. The likes of Bristol Huskies, the Guildford Lightning are putting stuff out there as well. So yeah, we'd like to move into that arena, sort of time and equipment permitting.
Yeah. And I know you mentioned the Ali Pali experience of you commentating on the games is something you kind of really enjoyed, and that's kind of what's maybe growing this passion for live streaming as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's it's probably subconsciously one of the reasons why I got into doing what I'm doing now with podcasting. Was I'd always had an interest in sports media. As a kid, I worked a little bit in sport radio, doing some producing as an apprentice, and commentating on live sport was a life ambition for me, really. So when I was offered the chance to do it at Alexandra Palace, of all places, one of the most iconic venues in London, probably even the country, I jumped at the chance, and I absolutely loved every single second of it. I've since sort of jumped on with the rock guys at Romford and done a little bit of commentary for them. Also done a little bit for the Milton Keynes Thunder in our league. Any team that offers streaming at our level, my services are there if they can give me enough notice that I can get there for a weekend. Hoping to help out the Haringey Huskies a little bit next year as they look to start streaming as well. So yeah, commentating has become almost like a little side part of what I do that I just absolutely love. Any reason, any excuse to talk about hockey, really.
Yeah. Oh no, definitely. I know that feeling. So wish you well for Hockey Night Live. We'll follow that with great interest from afar. Jono, anything else from your side on North South or playoffs or anything while we've got Ben with us?
No, I don't think so. I think you answered half of my questions before I even asked them.
I mean, did it go the Cup semi-finals? Did it go the way that you guys were expecting?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. No excitement in ours, unlike yours.
No.
Because that's going to be. I mean, last year, obviously, you guys Blackburn went head to head for everything.
Last year, what happened last year?
No,
It's gone.
it's gone. If
It's
you listen to last week's Ben, it was 1-0 Josh Crawley, and that's all that happened in the cup final last year. That's it, nothing else.
Yeah. The cup final, I suppose, is deleted from your memories. I did actually speak with Graham Hamilton, who fans up north may well know as the host of Hawks Talk, the Blackburn Hawks podcast. And I said to him, I can't see you scoring 21 in 2 games against that lot again.
Well,
Never say never.
touching a lot of wood right now.
I mean, the series between the two has been split. The league season's been split 2-2. We played them very first game of the season. It was an edgy 3-2.
Their roster's changed a lot that first game.
And then we played them that head-to-head. They won 6-2, 6-3 down there. And then we just played the perfect game up here in return and won 9-0. It was mad. It was unreal. So
it was mental, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was mental.
Yeah, I think it just depends what teams turn up. Literally, what teams turn up on the day and who's got their game on. Because I think Billingham and Blackburn are the two form horses in the division. I mean, you just look at the league table. The points difference between 1 and 2, and then the rest is noticeable. So the two form horses going head to head, and it's kind of what you want for a cup final.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Three cup finals in a row. If we don't win this one, I don't ever want to make another one.
Yeah.
I mean, it's good to see that level of competition, because down south, really, for the last 4 to 5 years since the return after the pandemic, Streatham Redhawks have just won everything. I think Invicta might have won a cup along the way. I think that was a couple of years ago. Invicta took the cup. But other than that, it's just been Streatham Redhawks. They've taken the league, they've taken the playoffs. Last year, we had an extra cup in the south as well. They even took that, as well as winning the national final as well. The only thing they didn't win last year was the playoffs. So it's really, really good to see them. Not that they ever truly ran away with it. There was always a relatively close point gap. But this year is very, very different indeed, because all that top 4 have all beaten each other already. they've all been incredibly tight games, really, apart from the cup games at the weekend that saw Streatham and Chelmsford batter each other over 2 nights. But yeah, I think that's good at both North and South to see that level of competitiveness, because the thing is, I think once it gets to then crossing over, and that's Sunday in Sheffield where North faces South, that could be the telling factor of not how hard your season has been, are your legs knackered, but have you had real experience of a hard game and having hard games all the time. And unfortunately, in the North, it doesn't seem to be every week that it is a hard game. You might get a little bit of a gimme and then a tough test on the night after. Down south, it's 30. I think it's 36 league games. You're looking at least 30 tough games.
Yeah.
The league. Just a little question: the ice surface in Sheffield, we know it's full Olympic size. Will that affect any of the teams in the south, or?
I don't think it will affect any of them negatively. The only one that could play havoc with tactics-wise is Solent. Their rink is, I think, legally as small as you are able to play on.
We know that feeling.
Yeah.
So it's, but to be perfectly honest, when they get on the big ice, they transfer their tactics really, really well and become a different prospect altogether. A lot of the teams that do play in the smaller arenas then really do enjoy getting on a large pad because they can play a lot more expansively. I know the players that might not be the fittest would prefer to play on the smaller pads and maybe have 10 strides from goal line to goal line rather than that being from blue line to blue line. But yeah, I think if anything, it opens up the space. And at this level, when there's more space, there's definitely more excitement.
No, sounds good. Carol, anything from your side for Ben?
No, I was going to ask if he'd already had half an eye on the North, but sounds like you do. So you've been following along quite well. I
have. I do keep my finger on the pulse. Obviously, speaking with Jono and with Graham as well, I do sort of keep in touch with what Billingham and Blackburn are up to. Graham has actually already put dibs on me as a Blackburn fan, because when we first spoke, I told him I like the colour scheme. So he's adopted me for them already. But I do like keeping the pulse up north, especially this year, as you say, because it's all going to come to a head in Sheffield in April. I think it's going to be fantastic to see. And I think for me, that will truly be who runs hockey, North or South. And I believe, I don't know if I'm actually breaking any sort of protocol. I think it might be that winner hosts. So we're starting in Sheffield, and if the South wins, we may come to Milton Keynes. If the North wins, we may go up north the following year.
Possibly. I think there's the argument also that just might flip-flop between the two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it might down south all the time.
Yeah. Good. I love a good road trip.
Yeah. It's a bit like when you used to play a pool in the pubs, isn't it? Winner stays on. So if you win, you get to play in your barn again.
Yeah.
No, it's been brilliant, Ben. For those who haven't experienced the ZPG network yet, where can people find your online genius?
Well, there's quite a lot of it. It certainly is hard work running sort of 7 social media accounts as well as a podcast. But you can find Zero Pucks Given to listen to on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube. There's also video versions on YouTube. Not quite beautifully laid out as yours guys is, but it's certainly there on YouTube. And then ZPG Ice Maidens is also part of the ZPG network, and you can find that on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. No videos as yet. Adam's a little bit camera shy, but I'm sure we'll get him there at some point.
No, I remember we certainly encourage people to check out the ZPG and listen to what's going on down south, particularly with an eye on the middle of April and the Steel City Showdown. Space those words out very carefully. But Ben, it's been great having you on board. Thanks for jumping on, and we'll no doubt catch up with you again before the season runs its course. And best of luck with your Hockey Night Live.
Absolutely, thank you very much. I'm looking forward to meeting you all in person in Sheffield.
Nice one. Cheers, Ben.
Speak soon.
And there he goes, Ben from ZPG. As I said, I was just listening to his latest episode. He does a couple each week. He does a roundup early in the week of games, and he does like match reports of games. It's a great listen, and he'll say the coaches comments he gets. So some of them are possibly a little bit too honest for their own good. We know how that is, Carol, with your post game, but definitely a well worth a listen. Find them on those channels that he mentioned, and say give a look to the ZPG live that he's going to do in a couple of weeks' time. It's going to be exciting to follow. Any other thoughts before we resume our normal?
No,
services, as it were?
I was quite interested the point of view about the mental aspect of the game maybe playing a part in Sheffield. I'd never really given that much thought, but do you know what? You might have a point, because we do in the North have some weeks where you look and you think, well, yeah, unless we have an absolute night off, then this is fairly straightforward.
Yeah.
And it sounds like that's really not the case down south. So I'd never really given much thought to the mental aspect of it, but yeah, that's a fair point. I
mean, there's a couple of scores there. Yes, Streathams and Chelmsford have been putting like double figures on MK and Oxford fairly regularly. So maybe that's their equivalent of Sheffield and Widnes that we've had in our division earlier this season, perhaps. Maybe not so much now, but earlier in the year when people were putting goals on those two teams. So, but we'll say the proof is in the pudding come the middle of April, 12th and 13th. We'll give a ticket plug again. If you haven't got your ticket already, over half the tickets have been sold for the Steel City Showdown, April 12th and 13th, Bauer Arena, I Sheffield. 6 championship games across the weekend. The early bird is still available until the 14th of February. If you look on the EIH social media channels or the EIH events team, they'll direct you the links to the ticket site, and you get your tickets for that event. We'll take another quick break, and then we'll come back with our third segment. We'll look at the results and tables and look ahead to a game this weekend for your Billingham Stars. This is the official podcast of your Billingham Town Council, Billingham Stars. This is Starcast. Welcome back to Starcast, and a huge thanks to Ben from zeropucksgiven. As he says, give him a follow on any of his podcast channels. Look him up on social media as well and find out what's going on when he does his Hockey Night Live. So great to have Ben. I'm sure we'll have him on again before the end of the season. Final little segment here for Starcast tonight. We'll do our regular rundown of results from around the NIHL. I know it was Cup weekend, but there were some league games as well taking place in the NIHL North Division 1. So on Saturday, Nottingham 3, Widnes 5. Huge result at the NIC Saturday afternoon game for the Widnes Wild. 4 goals without reply to take that one. The 2 cup ties, as we say, Billingham 5-2 on Saturday. Blackburn doing a job 8-3 on the road in the first leg at D-side. And then the other league game on Saturday, the Leeds Knights 2, Solihull Barons 8. So that was Saturday's action. And then Sunday, I say the 2 cup ties, as we know, Blackburn doing the job in the second leg 6-3 to take them through for the cup final. And then Sunday's cup action, some Sunday's league action, and overtime game, the Nottingham Lions taking it 3-2 over the Leeds Knights. So Leeds getting an important point in the standings, which will not do a full league table roundup, but the bottom of the playoff race is getting very, very tight as we come into the run-in. Anything you want to talk about? Do you want to briefly talk about the other tie in our cup? We said on last week's show, on paper it was one thing, but in reality Blackburn were the form team and kind of so approved, Carol, and doing the job, particularly in that away leg on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean we've just talked about that with Ben, haven't we? The 2 South semi-finals where everything in neutral would have hoped them to be, nice and close, massive comebacks, lots of excitement, and in the end our 2 semi-finals pretty much the complete opposite. Blackburn basically did the business on Saturday, and unlike Chelmsford, sat on their 5-goal lead quite comfortably on Sunday. So I think I said it in the last show, I was expecting Blackburn to hold this one fairly comfortably. I'm not sure I was thinking it'd be that comfortable, but again, Dragons continue to flummox me. They're on paper they're better than this, but unfortunately their defence is awful. So possibly they got what we all thought they were going to get in the end. It just sets up us v Blackburn again, and I think for them, reigning cup holders, they'll be wanting to keep hold of that. I noticed they're having a banner raising ceremony at the weekend for that one, so
just in case they lose it.
Just in case they lose it. And you'd like to say we can't possibly have the same amount of bad luck leading up to this year's cup final as we did last year, touching every amount of wood that I can find. We can't possibly have that amount of bad luck again. So let's just hope for something a lot closer this time.
No,
at least make it competitive going into Sunday.
Yeah.
The league games, John. Obviously, teams taking the option to fit in some league fixtures when they're obviously not in the cup contention. Another huge win on the road, Widnes, with a couple of new faces, which we'll talk about. They were 3-1 down with 15 minutes to go, and ended up winning that one 5-3 at the NIC. Great for them. And then Nottingham getting another win, an OT win on Sunday to kind of stay in that 7th place, which we said is pretty much locked in. But Leeds getting a point, and that 8th spot is going to be keenly contested for the next few weeks, isn't it?
Yeah, that point for Leeds is probably a bigger point than what people would think. I think Widnes are coming. I think they're going to put their foot down and go for it now. Like I say, they have made some signings. 3, I think, in total. Is it 3 or 4 signings that they've made? I think they're going to go for that 8th spot. I think Nottingham are kind of settled in 7th. I know they're only a few points back with Whitley now, they've got games in hand. But yeah, huge win for Widnes. Probably going to lose a player for GBH, but I looked at watching the video that went out. But yeah, Leeds obviously on home ice to get that point the next night in Nottingham. Obviously got battered on home ice the night before, then to get a huge point in Nottingham, because it's not an easy place to go. It's not an easy place to go for the big teams. Yeah, that's a huge point for Leeds, and I think they could just well be thanking the lucky stars come playoff time, because it could be just that single point that gets them through.
Yeah, I mean, so we'll not do a league table, but just looking at the bottom there, so Leeds, Nottingham are pretty safe in 7th on 26, and Leeds are on 17, Widnes on 14, Sheffield on 12. Even Sheffield, not 100% out of it. I know they've taken a goalie from Telford this week as well. So those three into the final 8th place, and like you say, Widnes are on a bit of a tear since the new year. So it's all to play for. The other end, Solihull have moved up in the 3rd on 47 points. 7 points back of Blackburn, haven't played the same amount of games. So a bit of a gap between 1 and 2, and then the rest. But Solihull up in the 3rd, which is, again, we're talking about possible playoff.
Surprisingly, I think Solihull might just have their eye on Blackburn, you know. I know it's 7 points, but 2 wins is 6 points. They're a point behind them. They've got to play each other as well. And Hawks have a couple of tricky fixtures coming before the cup final. So if they just take their eyes off and put it on that cup final, they could see themselves in a little bit of league trouble. But yeah, I just think Barons, with the signing news that they've had lately, might just have that sneaky eye back on 2nd place.
Yeah. Oh, so there's plenty to keep our eye on, and obviously we'll do our best here. But I know there are other podcasts who focus on the league wider issues, and you can listen to that on all good platforms as well, John. I'm sure you can stick to the pod later on and tell us all about that one. Yeah, get people to follow on and see as the league develops at both ends of the table for the rest of the season. Back to league action for your Billingham Stars this coming Sunday. Back to the Forum Ice Arena. Sheffield are the visitors coming into the Forum. 5:30 as usual. And Carol, we've played Sheffield. We mentioned they've signed a goalie, Matty Blower from Telford on a 2-way. We'll see if he ices at the weekend. But we've played Sheffield in the first game of the new year. We're not expecting that kind of scoreline again, but again, if we focus on ourselves, the job should be done.
Yeah, I mean, we keep saying, that we're not going to put a cricket score past people, and we're going to take every game the same, which is the right mentality. But if we're going to be realistic about this should be 3 fairly comfortable points on Sunday. I can't see any other result, put it that way. I mean, never say never, because I'm a Billingham fan of a long standing, so I'm well aware that it can go horribly wrong when you least expect it. But really, in with all things being equal, as they say, then no, there's not much chance of anything other than 3 points that I can see.
Yeah. And Sheffield the other week, Jono, the one over Hull in a shootout, but then we're blown away the following night. So again, a bit Jekyll and Hyde, and Adam Matty Blower possibly will strengthen their goaltending. We've seen him before. He's played in our division for the Lions, and now he's obviously on a 2 away from Telford in the NIHL. So he's obviously going to be a decent goalie, but one goalie shouldn't make that much of a difference, you would think.
No, and I hope he's ready for an absolute barrage of shots coming this weekend, because that's what it'll be. To be fair to Sheffield, though, I think they have picked some of their battles this year, and they'll probably know this is not one of them. I believe one of their better players, in Christian Pellin, probably won't be available this weekend due to suspension, but they have brought in, I think, a total of 3 guys. So they could have a bit more depth, which could push the Stars a little bit. But as Carl said, all things being equal, this is the serious time of the year now. It's foot down, foot on throats, take no prisoners. If it scores 20, we score 20. We can't be feeling sorry for people.
Yeah, and they say the run-ins, obviously the cup semi-final, so you can park the cup for 4 weeks and then return to league action over the next few weeks. There's some big league games to get ready for the run-in, because we've looked at the fixtures now and again, and the run-in, particularly in March, there's a few difficult fixtures on paper. So we need to pick up what we can over the next 4 weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. It is that time, and John was dead right. We can't be feeling sorry for teams that are scrapping about at the bottom. That we're not a charity, I'm afraid, and we need to be on it every single game, regardless of opposition. So, yeah, dead right. If it's 20, it's 20. It won't be 20, by the way, because I just can't see that either. But
no.
I just do expect a comfortable win, and I don't expect any let up from the Stars.
Full weekend schedule, courtesy of Joe Scott's NIHL stats. So Saturday, Sheffield are actually in action on Saturday on home ice against the Whitley Warriors. It's Solihull versus Hull and Widnes versus Blackburn. That's your Saturday schedule. And then Sunday, the Warriors face the Solihull Barons, Billingham against Sheffield, Blackburn against Leeds, and then Nottingham against Deeside. So 7 games across the weekend. You can follow on social media, and John will talk about it all next week on Stick to the Pod. But yeah, for your Billingham Stars, Sunday, Forum Ice Arena, 5:30. As usual, it's a league game. So if you're a season ticket holder, you go back to being in the season ticket queue. Get in early, get your seat, get your tickets, visit the supporters club, buy your merch, buy your programs. Basically, we'll just take you the door upside down, take all the money off you, and then sit you down in your seat, ready to go. But yeah, 5:30 Sunday. I hope you can join us, returning to league action. Finish our pod with any other business. Just a couple of the headlines that caught my eye. We mentioned some signings. Danny Hyde was announced as leaving Solihull. Obviously, they had signed Zach Yokoyama previously, leaving them with 3 imports. And then a nice little reveal on social from the Widnes Wild. He returned to his former club on midweek, and he starred in their win over on Saturday. So Danny Hyde back with the Widnes Wild. They also signed Flynn Massey, who'd been with them previously as well on a 2-way, but he's back with them full time with the Widnes Wild. So as Jono said, Wild strengthening them for the running. See how they do. I haven't got the details for Sheffield, but I noticed, Jono, you mentioned Sheffield have added 2 or 3 names in depth, so they're kind of tooling up as well. And there was one other one I was going to mention as well, which I can't find on my notes. So we'll just have to leave that as it is. Anything any other signings that I've missed?
David's, but we mentioned him in the.
We mentioned him. Yeah, that was rumoured. I was driving down to the game on Saturday, listening to Jono's podcast, talking about Jono Knox hasn't been announced yet, and I've walked into the ring, and there he was. So that was like life imitating art. That was fantastic from that. But yeah, so Jono Knox with Hull for the rest of the year. So a little bit of a player go around, ready for the run in. Signing deadline, if anybody is going to make any more moves, is the 31st of January.
For Sheffield, it's Brandon Shard and Lewis Otley.
Yeah, so
along with Matty Blue on the two-way.
They're former Sheffield players who were playing elsewhere. I certainly remember Lewis Otley in Sheffield before. So I think they've been elsewhere and returned home to the Sheffield club. So we'll see them hopefully at the forum on Sunday. The other thing I was going to mention, Carol's wearing her GB Lion on the bubble. GB under 18 women are in World Championship action this week. They started yesterday. They beat Kazakhstan 3-1 yesterday, and they beat the Netherlands 3-0 today. So they're off and running with 2 wins from 2. It's a rest day for the tournament tomorrow. They're back in action on Thursday, but you can follow on Team GB Ice Hockey on social media or the IHF website. There is a webcast as well. You do need to register, but it's free, so you can watch the action from Riga. It's where the GB women played last year. I was out there with GB, so I know it's a nice facility. It's a 3-pad rink, 1 big arena, and 2 training pads. So spoiled for ice out there, but it's a nice venue in Riga. So good luck to the GB women for the rest of the tournament. One of our officials who did our game on Saturday, Felicity, one of the lines persons, she's actually at that tournament as well, her first IHF assignment. So good luck to Felicity as well. Do you have any other business, Carol? We'll come to you first.
Just the return of the playlist, and I didn't know a single song.
Yeah, I did get one of the whole staff did asking what song was that and what was it called, and so the players have been asking them what it was. So it obviously attracted some interest, but like you, I looked at the list and listened to some of them. I was like, oh, okay, that's Callum, fair enough. If it gets him going, and it got him a goal, so a goal and something else over the weekend, so it obviously got him fired up. So fair enough to that. But yeah, we'll see what next weekend brings.
Also, you might have noticed that I've changed all the livery on the socials as it is Pride Week.
Yeah, it's the 4th Pride Week from the England Ice Hockey. I know some of the clubs have done a You Can Play video, which is being pulled together at the minute. I know this because I'm pulling it together. So yeah, so we'll get that. So that would probably view on the EIH socials later this week. But yeah, a lot of Pride jerseys I noticed last weekend. So it started last Saturday. It runs through this Sunday, and basically we want to make hockey a safe space, regardless of who you are, your sex, gender identity, sexual proclivity, whatever. Hockey is a safe space. Hockey is for everybody, and we want you to be part of our wonderful sport. As Jono was raving about it earlier, it's a fantastic sport, and everybody should be able to enjoy it safely and without worrying about any comments or any backlash about who they are and how they live their lives. So hockey is for everybody.
Correct.
And I still saw there was some questions about why you changed the logo to why are we doing Pride? Yeah, that's why we're doing Pride, because we still get those kind of questions
every year.
That's it from my end of the business. Jono, over to you. Do you have a list?
I've been given a list.
Hey,
it's not too bad. It's not too bad. So yeah, we are in another cup final. So we will be wanting to run a bus for Blackburn away, whenever that may be. So please come see us, express your interest, because obviously these things are very expensive. So the more of you, the less it'll be, and it'll be better for the lads. The more of you there is as well. I think there's another bus potentially planned for D-side away as well. So come and express your interest for that one. New merch is ordered, so they won't be available this weekend. So there's going to be some new T-shirts coming. I believe one of the members of the committee has put a post in one of the fan groups about loud cups. So if you're curious about what those are, take a look or drop us a message and we'll send you to see if you're interested in that. Other than that, come and say hello at the table, see what we've got, come and have a chat, join the club. And a big one for me, as I said earlier on, if you've got a friend who's never seen ice hockey before, bring them along and see what they think, because I can guarantee they'll be hooked.
Yeah.
And as for this podcast, Stick to the Pod is recorded and will be out this week.
Just covering one weekend of games and not like a month like last one.
Yes. Yeah. Well, some people decide to have holidays and Christmas and New Year, and someone decided to get married and all this inconsiderate stuff in between hockey.
How really dare they do stuff in the hockey season?
Yeah, unbelievable, isn't it? New Year's, weddings, Christmases, holidays.
New year, new me, new pod. No, but yes, give a listen to Stick to the Pod. I say Jono covers the NIHL North 1 and 2 in more detail than we've kind of touched on in this pod, because obviously we focus more on Billingham just on their own. But Jono covers North 1 and North 2 in more detail. So give that a listen when that comes out. Follow him on socials and look out for that.
And definitely give Ben a listen as well. He's got a great thing going down there with the South, and he's got a lot of wild plans coming, and you're just going to love everything he does. He's a great guy. He's nuts about hockey, as he is about more sports, but he's a sound guy. He will be coming back on Stick to the Pod. Not that he knows it yet. I haven't told him, but he is coming back on Stick to the Pod. But yeah, give him a listen. He's got a great thing going there, and I think there's only bigger things to come for hockey from him. Yeah.
No, it was good having a chat with him, and say I've listened to him for a while now, and I say he does 2 episodes a week at least, and some specials as well. So,
and all his Instagram live stuff as well. I'd love to know how he has the time, or if he's even happily married.
That's a question for another time. Why don't we get him on and ask him? Ben, question 1: are you married? Are you happy? You seem to be walking the dog quite a lot late at night on your phone. Yeah, so give Ben a listen. Obviously, you mentioned the links in the piece a bit earlier on. So have a search on wherever you get your podcasts, or look them up on YouTube. Look them on all the social medias as well. But it's been a good episode. Thank you to Ben. I say give him a follow. Thanks to him for jumping on. Thank you to Carol and to Jono. As always, great chat this evening about your Billingham Stars. And thank you, everybody, for watching and listening wherever you get your stick. Your Stick to the Pod. No, that's Jono's show. Not you can get him as well.
Shameless plug. Thank you, Craig. Pay you later.
Wherever you get your fix of Starcast. There's too many words, and it's bedtime.
Too many podcasts.
Yeah. Wherever you get your fix of Starcast, whether it's on YouTube or on the audio line, or YouTube or Facebook or wherever on the audio only versions, give us a like, a follow, a review if you're able to. It only can help us grow and get better, and hopefully we'll be chasing down Ben with 150 episodes in the not too distant future. But thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Thank you to everybody who's contributed. We'll see you at the game on Sunday. But for now, this has been Starcast, not Stick to the Pod, your official podcast of the Billingham Town Council sponsored Billingham Stars.
Thank you for being part of this episode of Starcast, the official podcast of your Billingham Stars. Remember to like and share this episode, send a review when you can, and follow us on social media for the very latest news and to find out when the next Starcast will drop.